Okay. So, welcome, and welcome to the Juvenile Justice Intervention Center's Capital Improvement Plan and Public Hearing for the years 2024 to 2028. This process, we're at the front end of the capital plan and capital budget development process. City planning, along with capital projects, we host public hearings to interview each agency to discuss their requests for the next 5-year period, and to provide an opportunity to give visibility to requests for the public so they understand what your vision is for your department, your agency, as well as allow for any comments or testimony should anybody attend. So what we have been asking our departments to do for these meetings is to simply go through your requests and give a brief description of what you're proposing, and allow some time for any discussion with people at this table, or if anybody attends for public comment. So if we could start with just a round of introductions. Larry Massey, I'm Deputy Director of CUA.
Vince Smith, Director of Capital Projects and also present by phone. Sean Lewis, the Capital Projects liaison with JJIC.
I'm Michelle Williams. I'm the Executive Director at the Juvenile Justice Intervention Center.
My name is Compton Peters. I'm the Chief Operating Engineer at the JJIC.
And we can get started whenever you're ready.
So the first request that the Juvenile Justice Intervention Center has is we're asking to upgrade our existing cell doors, and so we're just asking for a structural overhaul and retrofitting of the doors so they could properly close. At this time, they are closable. However, we run into issues where sometimes we may have to slam them a little bit harder to make sure that they are actually locking, making sure that there's a structurally they were retrofitted before on the previous administrators. However, I'm no expert, but I was working at the facility at the time, and it appears that they may not have been properly retrofitted. They've changed some of the locking mechanisms, which may have altered the actual structure of the doors, and so we would like to upgrade those cell doors. There's a projected amount of $400,000 that we're asking, but I think the overall goal is to ensure public safety, one, and then the safety of the youth and the staff. Sometimes we have detained individuals that stand at the door when we're trying to slam the door to make sure that it is engaging properly. You run the risk of injury, because if they have their hand in the door and you miss it and you trying to slam it shut, opposed to it functioning properly and closing the way it was designed to close, you run the risk of possibly injuring a detained individual, and sometimes you run the risk of injuring yourself, because the door will sometimes bounce back. And so that's a huge liability, and we would like to at least repair or retrofit the doors that we currently have.
Okay.
The second request. I'm sorry.
Move forward. I know that when we did the jail, we had issues, and actually the designer had to pay to do to literally replace the doors, and the issues with the frames as well. You've got here, your projected amount is 400, but in your 2024 line you've got 980. So which number? Look at your sheet.
And so we also taken into account the current cost of materials, the current.
Also, this is a number that is maybe adjusted for inflation. This
Yes.
is a previous cost that was
Yes.
submitted in a previous
Yes.
capital budget year. Okay, so you need to make them align. If you're asking for 980, the project amount should be 980 as well.
Okay,
So go ahead and align those.
okay.
Sean, are we gonna have to have a professional of record come in and be that architectural, structural, whatever, and look at it and come up with some recommendation and specs for us?
That's correct. That's also a reason that number is higher.
Okay. So this includes design and install.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
And so does this still include the replacement of the locking mechanisms and the door frames as well?
So you want to speak to that, Mr. Lewis, in terms of the locking mechanism and the door frames?
Yeah, the locking mechanisms were modified as a faulty design originally in the building, and we had to go back to key locks from access cards. And so now what you have, because of the misalignment of the doors, those doors are exceptionally heavy, and they open daily, and they get pulled out of alignment from people jumping on the doors as well. So that also pulls the locking mechanisms, which are security grade, penal grade locks, and they get out of line and don't meet the strike size. So all of that alignment, all of those alignment issues, inclusive of the keys and the locking mechanism, have to be addressed as a part of the project.
Okay.
You want to move on to item 2?
Yes.
All right, so the perimeter security fence and gate repairs, so that is a twofold. Most detention centers have an overall security perimeter fence. The JJIC does not have that, and it affords individuals that from the public that is commuting back and forth to the court side. As you know, we are one complex, and so sometimes we have former youth that were detained there and their parents like walking up to the exterior windows that are visible to the street side. And so I think that we need a layer of protection between the individuals inside the JJIC and the public. That is one piece of it. The second piece of it, we have a north gate and a south gate, and we would like to do a final repair on the north gate or replacement of the north gate. And then we also would like to do a overhaul of the south gate, which is the gate more closer to the I-610, to make sure that it adequately engaged and locked. There's a small, I don't want to say hole. What should I refer to that as, Mr. Lewis or Mr. Compton? It's
a gap.
Okay.
a gap.
That's caused by soil falling away and the settlement of the land over there.
And so,
And it misaligns the gates.
Mm-hmm.
so I think definitely an overhaul, and then also some concrete paving of that back area to address the land issues where the soil is slowly washing away. And then also it would afford us the opportunity to allow emergency vehicles to come into the areas that we need them to access in a timely manner, opposed to going through front doors and side doors. And sometimes the gurneys can't get through those particular doors, where we can have a emergency space for vehicles to come in when there's a need to service individuals in that space. I would just reference not a youth, but a staff was having a medical emergency, and we were running all over trying to get the EMS into the facility adequately to service that individual and get them out to the hospital.
Mhm.
It also provides a more secure area for people entering the building, Ms. Williams. That was our primary concern, so that we don't have to go through the front and go through all the doors in the JJIC to get the gurneys into the space.
Right, and then especially if we're having to transport detained individuals, as you all know, that most of these kids are on high-profile cases, and so again, having a private space to, if there's a need to transport those kids out of the facility into a medical facility, just having that private area opposed to, because right now we are when there's a need, be it staff or youth, we have to go through the front doors.
Mhm.
And so we are, our projected amount is 300,
3.5 million.
3.5 million. Yeah, 3.5 million.
Now, Sean, so what are we looking at? So obviously this is security fencing. Are we talking about wrought iron or something more industrial and robust?
This is security fencing to match what we have at the facility,
Okay.
which is going to require design and analysis to do the installation.
Yeah. Okay, so given that, and given the fact it typically takes us, in a perfect scenario, it will take us 3 months to get a designer on board, and 3 months to procure. So that's 6 months right there. If the design is going to take more than or 6 months, that's a year. So, can we be strategic with this request and do a 1-year design and next year construction in terms of funding?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's break out the design costs, put it in 2024, and then let's put the construction costs in 2025. That way, that's less of an ask and it's more attractive and feasible, as we are, looking at $1 billion worth of capital budget requests.
Right.
And then that would, we tell folks, if you've got plans in hand, as we're looking at projects to fund, you're in a more favorable position than someone that doesn't.
Okay.
So let's go ahead, Sean, let's go ahead and break this out into 2-year design build.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So request number 3 is consolidation of our surveillance cameras. We have completed phase 1 of our surveillance overhaul system at JJIC, but we are currently still operating on 2 different systems, which is one is a Vigilon and the other is Johnson Control, and we would like to consolidate that. Right now we have 2 separate, one control room, but we have the individuals monitoring 2 separate systems, and usually when one system is down and we bring in a company to service that system, then about a few days later, that upgrade causes that system to go down, or vice versa, back and forth. And so we would like to just do a consolidation and have one system. And so we are asking for $385,000 to complete that consolidation.
Are the systems split between the original building and the expansion?
Yes, yes.
And which one is in the expansion building?
The Johnson Control.
Johnson Control.
Yes. And I would just say, and you could speak a little bit more to it, Mr. Compton or Mr. Lewis. The Vigilance system has given us less problems and been more effective and efficient in meeting JJIC needs. It's less stress than what we are dealing with Johnson Control.
That's correct.
Okay.
interface with Johnson Controls has been problematic since the installation of the cameras and the access control.
Mm-hmm.
We're operating on two platforms, and we need to have a homogeneous monolithic system so that we don't run into the same problems, especially like with programming cards.
Yeah.
We need to make sure all the cards stay the same throughout the complex.
Okay.
Let's speak to the chillers, Mr. Captain.
Yeah, request number 4 is, we like to, when we built the expansion back in 2019, there was only provision for one chiller, at least one chiller was installed.
Mm-hmm.
Usually with any type of facility, and now I think we could all relate to it now because of how many failures we have in our city buildings with air conditioning. You always need to have a backup. You always have 2 pumps, you always have 2 chillers. Well, somehow the second chiller was never in place. So like when there's a failure, and these chillers are very complicated, have a lot of sensors and that type of thing. It affects the expansion, all the school, medical clinic, and where the youth are housed, 28 of them. So when it goes down, we have to like deal with it until we can get it repaired. And usually we try to get it as soon as possible. But if we have 2, if one should be not as effective, the other one is there. So that's why we are proposing that we put in another chiller.
And I'm sorry, I would just like to add also, we are licensed by the Louisiana Department of Children Services, and they have what they call detention standards. So there's part of their standard is that you have to maintain climate control. And so if we run the risk of possible fines and fees when we're not having proper heat in the wintertime and proper air in summer months.
Do we have redundant systems in the original building?
Yes, sir.
We have
So
two
the
chillers here.
The chiller and the redundant chiller
Yeah.
was VE'd out.
Oh, in the addition.
So the structure is there,
Right.
some of the piping is there,
Okay.
the chiller's not there, and we can't tie into the
Can't
old,
turn to.
the old building.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Next request, number 5 would be, we're asking for 3 additional fleet vehicles as we expand our in-home intensive in-home supervision program, which is our community-based supervision program where we have our reentry specialists that go out and service the family as a whole of youth that has been released conditionally. They're basically detained at home and under the supervision of our reentry specialists from JJIC. We currently have 4 vehicles, but we have 7 reentry specialists, and so we need 3 additional vehicles to support that heavy rotation as the program expands. And so we are asking for $120,000 to purchase 3 additional vehicles to support that expansion of our program and the kids that's in that program.
Okay. We need to check to see if we need to move this line item to your operating budget, because typically we don't buy stock vehicles, standard vehicles with the bond funds.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll reaffirm that.
Okay.
Okay.
Speak to the furniture.
Yes, so request number 6 is replacement of metal furniture in the original site. When we did the expansion, the design, we have a different type of furniture. It's like what?
It's in the new building, it's cast in place, heavy duty plastic.
Plastic, right?
We have metal in the old building,
Right.
Pelicans and Saints,
Mhm.
and Continental steal your thunder.
No.
The problems that we've had with the metal furniture are that the kids can literally separate it from the walls.
Right.
We also have ligature issues, so we spent $20,000 closing in the bottoms of those beds. We've had nothing but issues with that furniture. Then we do the new building. Perfect. The plastic caulks to the wall. There's no way to pull it away from the wall. The seating, there's no ligature issues compared to what was in the old building. So it's a day and night, and it's a safety related issue with JJIC. And so, it's imperative, it's literally imperative that we swap that furniture out.
And so those new beds are holding up pretty well.
Right.
I remember looking at the expansion
That's
whenever
right.
it was
That's
started
right.
construction, and I think one of the concerns was kind of sealing the.
Yeah, we had major problems with that.
No, we spent, I'm saying we,
Mhm.
sorry, no
No,
disrespect.
no, look, I understand, that's why we brought you back.
We spent about $20,000 closing in the bottom of those beds.
Yeah, and we, every now and then, we have to make some repairs because if we have the welder come, because it's coming apart. And so that, we could get that. That would be definitely, a blessing.
Okay.
And the furniture's on state contract.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We have, I just wrote a note on the, security, system, if we could get that off the state.
It's on state contract.
That, that's the biggest problem that we have with, trying to get security systems to match.
Right.
We did the cameras in the building and the access control in the old building. We did it on piggyback on state contract.
Okay.
So we can do the same for the migration project.
Good.
Okay, request number 7.
Go ahead, keep going.
Okay, okay. So, request number 7, we are asking, for, 2, school buses for mass movement in the event of, emergency situations. Right now, we currently have 3,
Yes,
3 12-passenger vans, but our facility is designed to house and hold 76 individuals plus all of the staff.
Mm-hmm.
So in the event that there's an emergency, we have to mass move kids. It will require several trips, and if we have to go long distance, that could be problematic if we don't have at minimum 1 bus, but 2 to move 76 plus staff. Correctional grade buses, meaning retrofitted with everything that we need to safely move individuals. The experience that we had with Hurricane Ida, trying to mass move individuals in 12-passenger vans, poses a liability for the city in terms of injury to staff and youth. We're asking for 2 buses for that purpose, to be able to mass move staff and youth in the event that there's an emergency.
Okay.
And the projected cost is $420,000.
Is that similar to the other vehicles, or is this?
This
more
might be different.
This is a major security issue, because when they have to individually move the kids, even though they're shackled, there's still issues.
Right.
And the buses make it easier because you can have more staff on the bus
Mm-hmm.
to help keep things down. And then when they move from New Orleans to wherever they're going, they have to do police escorts, and it's a major undertaking. And when you're doing that with 3 vehicles, when you can get down to 1 or 2, it's a safety issue, it's an economy of scale issue, it's a number of issues that make sense for the JJIC, especially the security issue.
No, you said it best.
What's the capacity of the bus?
67 6, it was 72, but when we put the stuff in it, the security stuff, some of the seats.
Oh, yeah, it was about, with the cages, I think we only lost the back room.
That's right.
Yeah, we only lost the back room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just, something's not right with your, criteria ranking. You've got, error codes, so go ahead and correct that.
Okay. It's on the description part.
Oh, okay, the
Yeah.
description, okay. Anyone else put together on that?
So general repairs.
If I may also, go back to the school buses,
Mhm.
if this is the, right time. It also helps with, transporting those kids in a safe way. We do have individuals that cannot mix. And so in a regular 12-passenger van, there's no dividers, and so there's a you run the risk of, injury there, but then also if there were, if we had a bus with the dividers, we would be able to, mix those individuals because they'll be separate and apart and divided, divided by the dividers. Separated by the dividers, I should say.
Okay. So the last one is general repairs, and we identified some issues with the north and south gate controllers. But the most important piece here is the grinder for the sewer line. And so we've got it identified as a muffin grinder. I got some information from the engineers that originally designed the building. What happens is there are special grinders that cut up anything that makes it into the sewer line. The ones that we have there now, again, no disrespect, the ones that we have there now, things get in, a t-shirt, a towel, a sheet, gets into it, and it wraps around the grinders and it shuts it down, and it causes raw sewage to back up into the courts. And so we've had several judges have issues back there, and it backs up to where the kids are. So I approached the issue with MCA, that's who was the original designer. And there's a product called the muffin grinder, and it's a real grinder. So that this major stuff, once it goes in, it rips it to shreds, it pulverizes it, and makes it smaller to go through the sewer lines. And because right now, Compton, I think it's once a quarter that he's jetting out those lines because you got to get the stuff out into the sewer line, but then he's got to literally pull these motors up that have the grinder blades on, and it's problematic when you have to go into raw sewage and do that.
And this sewage grinder wasn't it replaced just recently, maybe 5-6 years ago? Does that sound familiar?
Or installed. We
Installed,
installed in the
yeah.
original project, and we were having issues,
Okay,
so we
okay.
put one in.
Okay. Oh,
But two in two, one for the expansion and one for the original building, but it doesn't serve us at all. And usually every quarter I have to have a septic pump truck come and pump it out, pull the pumps out, have them serviced, put them back.
How often do you have to do that?
Every quarter.
How much is, if you were to segregate the cost, what's the grinder cost?
With the design component, we're talking about easily $500,000.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any additional questions, just, make those corrections, align your costs for the cell upgrades. Go ahead, do a design, construct split on the security fencing, make that correction to the priority criteria ranking so that we get a number there. And I think that is it. So make those corrections, resubmit your package, and we'll go from there.
And I guess just to close out, Vince and I will be holding meetings like this for the next couple of weeks. And from there, we'll get together and put together our 5-year plan, City Planning Commission's 5-year plan that we will present to the commission on September 13th. We'll release the report September 6th, a week in advance. And then once that's adopted by the commission, submit it to the mayor for her consideration as she develops the capital budget.
Okay.
All right,
That's it.
thanks, folks.
Thank
That's
you
it.
for your time.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
That's all right. I'm having one of those days to get numbers and not right on.